tea. How very British of me. Today we're going to talk about why Pokemon is a valid investment. Now, if I look down, please bear with me because I have got notes. I wanted to write down some of my thoughts on what I thought made a good and why Pokemon makes a good investment. And let's get straight into the video. No matter where you go in the world, people generally tend to know about Pokemon. I mean, even if they don't know about Pokemon overall, they can name Pokemon like Pikachu being an iconic Pokemon, Charizard, etc. Never ever underestimate the power of the brand. Pokemon is an absolutely huge IP, the largest grossing IP from what I understand across the globe, and they have been amazing and excellent at maintaining and creating this IP consistently over a period of time. Coming back to my point about people are what drives the market. There is a seller, the Pokemon company, and there is a buyer, people like you and I. Now, never underestimate the ability for people to drive prices up and cause what has now become a market of collectible items. Within the Pokemon space, you have hobbyists, you have players, you have investors, the stonks, you have people who are attached to the hobby from their childhood, so there's nostalgia there. And there is just the general speculator who likes the space, who is interested in potentially making some money. Somebody like myself who's a hobbyist who likes Pokemon cards, liked Pokemon cards as a child, and then grew up and had adult money that wanted to buy Pokemon cards. Now, granted, there are some sets that I wish I could buy that I can't afford right now because they are just so expensive. But that doesn't detract from the fact that people like myself who are now in different financial positions will want to pick up and buy product. People are what drives the market. The IP exists and Pokemon put product out. People buy it now. However, there is also a generation of people, i.e. children and potentially teenagers, who cannot afford booster boxes, who cannot afford certain products that will in the future want to buy these products. As time goes on, a lot less of those products are available in the market and people have to pay more because of the scarcity element. So people, their need, their demand, and the scarcity of product is one of the reasons why Pokemon is a valid investment. What I would say about Pokemon now is that it's become a collectible, okay? And the reason for this is many-fold. There's many reasons why Pokemon has become into an investment. Partly it is about the collectability, the scarcity. It's also grading, with grading companies like PSA, like Beckett, etc. So these have now started to become something that's being traded, okay? Now, I advocate generally for investing in sealed Pokemon booster boxes. There are a few other things you can also invest in that could potentially make you money in the long term. However, Pokemon booster boxes have been shown to be very effective over the last 20 to 25 years in terms of investment. I also like to see Pokemon as art, because without the art, the Pokemon cards, the TCG specifically, would not exist. Without the illustrations, without the iconic Mitsuhiro Aritas, the Ken Sugimoris, without these illustrators, or Kagemaru Himeno, these people are what made and brought to life these ideas of characters, of Pokemon, of the species, of the different types. Now, without the art, the TCG would not exist and it wouldn't be as iconic, okay? So look at the art as almost like traditional art. Now, when a set is released, how I look at Pokemon especially, okay, so this is my point of view. So the way I look at Pokemon is like this. I compare it to art, like fine art. Now, we all know that when Picasso did his illustrations and his paintings, when Van Gogh did his illustrations, his paintings, when Leonardo da Vinci did his iconic pieces, those pieces weren't worth a lot more until after they were no longer doing that, okay? Until after they had passed away, unfortunately. Now, to make a comparison and parallel here, yes, it's a long shot and it's a bit of a stretch to say this, but if we look at, if we look at Pokemon as art, okay, and something that's only available for a set amount of time. For example, when a booster box is released, we know there's a set artwork, there's a set list, we know certain cards exist within that set. Now, there's only a finite amount. Granted, we don't know how many boxes have been printed, and we don't know exactly how many versions of said cards have been printed. However, we can hazard guesses and we can make rough estimations based on what's on the market and what's been sold. However, much like the traditional fine art that I was talking about, where once the artist no longer exists or they stop doing art, the prices go up, value goes up because of the scarcity element and the fact that not many people have that. Now, over time, with Pokemon, specific sets will only exist for a certain amount of time. Yes, there are still base set booster boxes out there. There are still jungle boxes out there, fossil boxes out there. There's a bunch of different boxes out there that are from the WotC era that are really, really old. But actually goes to prove my point that the older it's gotten and the less available it's become, the more the prices have gone up. So I like to make it as a somewhat comparative to fine art. Okay, granted, with fine art, there are one-off pieces. With Pokemon, there aren't. But again, there are millions of people that are interested in Pokemon, and it's accessible to millions of people, where fine art, something that costs $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $20 million, $100 million is just not accessible to the average person. People like myself and you who are watching this video, who probably love Pokemon and have an affinity for it, are going to want these pieces, and there's going to be thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of us. So that's kind of what drives the price in the long term. Now, this brings me on to my third point, which is ease of access. Now, as I said, and it kind of ties in with what I said about the difference between fine art and Pokemon art. Now, Pokemon art is way more accessible than fine art, for example, okay? It's easy to acquire collectible. To pick up a booster box like one of these behind me is very simple. You can log on to eBay, you can log on to Amazon, you can make an order, and within a couple of days, it reaches your front door. You can put it in a case like I've done up there, store it, display it, put it away, and that's it. You can sit on it for 5 years, for 10 years, and the idea is that it will appreciate, and history tends to prove that it does. So ease of access is quite important in all of this. Yes, it is more difficult to offload than a stock or share, for example, or cryptocurrency. However, it's also fun to collect. It's something you can hold, it's something you can display. That's not something you can do with crypto or with a stock or share account. Now, tying into my earlier point about people driving the market, people wanting something, the scarcity element and nostalgia, the Pokemon Company International has done an absolutely amazing job at innovation. So my next point is innovation. Innovation has been at the heart. Now, you can deny this all you want, but if you are a true Pokemon fan, then you will know that look through the ages, look through the eras, look through all the different sets released from base set right up until Twilight Masquerade. Every single time there has been some innovation. Granted, there are some sets in the middle that have not got the same level of innovation. However, we can go anywhere from base set, where we had the standard holos, the Charizard, the Blastoise, the Venusaur, the Mewtwo, all of these cards. That was amazing for its time. But then we switch to a different era. Even if you go from base set to Rocket, you can see the difference in the illustrations. The illustrations are much more different. The Blastoise in Rocket compared to the Blastoise in base set is different. There's a completely different angle to Blastoise. There's a completely different vibe about it. It's the same for Charizard, where Charizard has sort of got his head turned to the image. You can see its back. It's very different, and that's innovation. I'm going to keep going with this because there are so many different innovations that I want to point out. Once you go from Rocket to the Neo sets and Neo Destiny and Neo Revelation, we see the introduction of Shining Pokemon. The Shining Pokemon are so different compared to base set, Jungle, Fossil, Rocket. That there is only a subtle innovation, but enough to keep the interest going. Now, remember, all these people I spoke about in point number one, the people that drive the market, are going to like different things. And the Pokemon Company International are acutely aware of the fact that people are going to want variance. They're going to want innovation. They're going to want different new things. And the same happens for when people grow up and children are watching this and they grow up, they're going to want to collect different things. I like the E-series, which is actually the next one I was going to talk about, the E-series cards. So we're talking about Expedition, Aquapolis, Skyridge. I'm a massive fan of these kind of cards because I think they're very, very unique and they just appeal to me. My friend, on the other hand, Jay, he is somebody who likes the Team Rocket set and the holographic cards within that set. Now, he spends his money on that. I spend my money on the others. And this is what kind of drives the prices over time. Now, with the innovation on that side of things, the innovations can be very subtle at times. I've obviously touched on the base set, Rocket, Shining, the E-series cards from Aquapolis, Expedition, and from Skyridge. But then you have further innovations. If you look at sets like Fire Red, Leaf Green, they did a very subtle change with the borders on the cards, where the borders had a holographic pattern actually on the borders, okay? That itself, again, was a very slight, small innovation that the Pokemon Company introduced that actually, I mean, it's amazing. It is so different compared to the others that people wanted that, and now people also want it. Then we saw the introduction of Gold Star cards from EX Team Rocket Returns. Again, that was amazing. Notwithstanding Deoxys, Holland Phantoms. We also have Crystal Guardians that introduced, like for example, the Deoxys, the Rayquaza Gold Star is one of my all-time grail cards. If I could get that card if I could just get the card for a reasonable price, I would buy it. Forget about a PSA 9 or 10. For me, that's, again, another really, really big chase card. You obviously had crystal cards as well, like I said earlier in some of the previous sets in earlier eras. Then you have Diamond and Pearl with the Level X cards. Again, that was another slight variance, a slight innovation that kept people engaged and interested. And then finally, fast forward to 2022, 23, 24, we had the introduction of, well, prior to that anyway, but we had the introduction of alt art, full art cards. We now have crazy arts where, you know, you've got the evolution line and artworks connecting the Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard from Pokemon 151, where you see Charmander at the bottom of what looks like a gorge with lava. It could be inside a volcano. Then you've got Charmeleon a level above that, and then you've got Charizard soaring in the sky, flying past the sun. If you take the difference in the artwork from now to what was back then, but also the progression and innovation throughout that time, throughout that period over the last 25 years, the Pokemon Company have nailed it every single time. Yes, there are some sets in the middle that feel like filler sets that potentially aren't great for illustrations, that don't really have the chase element in there. However, they've been able to consistently smash it out the park. Every single era has 2 or 3 sets which are out of this world. Now, you can disagree with me on that, but the facts remain that if you go back and you look at every single era, all the way from base sets up to Scarlet and Violet, there have been 2 to 3 sets that absolutely smash it out the park. For me, if you go back to some like Sun and Moon, Team Up was amazing. Cosmic Eclipse was amazing. If you go to XY, there are so many amazing sets within that. There are so many good sets within Sword and Shield, as we know. It's all popping off right now. The next point is, as I said, this again ties into the people that buy it. People are what drives the market. The current generation of children that are growing up on Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield, at some point in the future, are going to be in their 20s, in their 30s, and in their 40s. Never underestimate the power of nostalgia. It's very likely that as each generation goes on and children grow up and get older, so they get to my age, to your age, where they can afford the things they couldn't when they were children, or they weren't as fortunate to have the parents that could buy them these things, are going to want these products, and there's going to be less of them there. So these children that are now adults with adult money are going to want to go back and buy them. That also brings me on to the next point about why it's a valid investment, because as time goes on, you also have the power of collective buying. Now, collective buying is super, super powerful. Go on Twitch, YouTube, lives, box rips, whatnot, eBay Live. eBay Live doesn't quite do the rip and ship stuff now, but you've got plenty of platforms that are doing it. Now, the power of collective buying means that these older boxes can be sourced even at a higher price, okay? and people can buy in, and there's always going to be demand. People like Pokerev come on, they're able to sell packs, individual packs, to people from across the globe at one time and rip open these boxes worth 10, 20, 30, $100,000 in one go because of the power of collective buying and the digital age that we live in, allowing people to access these things, which goes back to what I said about nostalgia, to be able to have a feel for what they missed out in their childhood. And this is likely to be the case also in the future. Now, my final point is data. We can go back and we can look at every single set that's ever been released, booster boxes, by the way, that have gone up in value. Now, to compare Pokemon product to the stock market, for example, it's not fair. You would have to compare a specific booster box or a set to a specific stock. Now, Pokemon Company is like Apple, okay? Now, Apple will produce a range of products. They innovate like Pokemon Company have, okay? Pokemon Company are absolutely amazing at business. They are acutely aware of the fact that aside from the players and the hobbyists, there are also collectors in the space. This is why they release certain products at certain times for people to buy. When we compare something like the Pokemon Company to Apple, we know that Apple, for example, release a range of different products on a certain timeline horizon. So, and they rinse it out. So they'll release an iPhone 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc., 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 each time making small modifications or small improvements. It's questionable whether they do or not. I don't know. But this is the reason why people continue to buy the stock, because they know that Apple, or let's take Tesla, for example. Tesla has a range of different cars they will produce, and each model will have a different feature to it, or look different, or have a different purpose, or be more efficient, for example. Now, we don't know where the Tesla stock or the Apple stock is going to be in 12 months or 24 months from now, but we do know that looking at their history for the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that they have consistently innovated. And we also have the same for Pokemon. They have consistently innovated through the ages, as I showed before. And if you look at the data, the objective data, it shows and proves that sets generally, by and large, go up over time. And this is what makes the Pokemon Company and Pokemon sealed booster boxes valid investments. Now, on a parting note, what I would say is don't go all in on any Pokemon investment, okay? Allocate a portion of your funds to Pokemon investment, 5%, maybe 10% at a max, so that you can have a varied portfolio and basket of assets to rely on in the future. You don't want to put all your money into Pokemon and hope for the best in the long term. The best way to invest, if you're going to invest in Pokemon, is invest in sets you like, okay? Sets that you like the artwork of, and also only allocate a small portion of your total investments to Pokemon, whilst also investing in a bunch of other things. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my take as to why I think, these are just some of the reasons why I think Pokemon makes good investment. Obviously, I am going to be biased towards it because I like Pokemon. I like opening product. I like opening cards. I like the artwork. I like the chase. Okay, so naturally, this is the kind of content I would put out. If you disagree with me, you're more than welcome to put your comments down below and let me know. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you like what I've said. If you don't, that's fine. I don't really care, but make sure you slap the like button and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.